Hello, everyone. So, this is Connor, and welcome to the Queerness Diaries. So, today I am joined by Damien Monel, all the way in Madrid. So, how's it going today, Damien?
Hey Connor, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thanks. So, thanks so much for joining me today on the podcast. And so,
Thanks
it's
for
super awesome to have you on, especially this week being, we had World Mental Health Day this week, and so it's definitely a good time to delve into everything regarding mental health, but also to have you on and really talk about your story and journey. And of course, living in Madrid now, which is somewhere, like I was saying to you before, that I definitely love a lot. And but first of all, I thought if you could give kind of everyone an introduction to yourself and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone. My name is Damien. I'm a recruiter at Revolut, and I'm also a career coach. And yeah, I live in Madrid, like Connor said, and I'm originally from France. You can maybe hear it in my accent. But yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. Hmm.
Yeah, awesome. And so you said you've been in Madrid for about 2 years now, isn't it? And
Yes, that's right. So I've been living in Madrid for a couple of years. Prior to that, I was living in Ireland, and yeah, I guess I was looking for the sun, and here I found it.
yeah, yeah, you've got everything all on the doorstep in Madrid. Such a great
Yeah, yeah,
city.
almost everything. Yeah,
Yeah. And so, like I was saying to you before, so we always go through everyone's chapters. And what I thought it'd be good to do is kind of go all the way back, what you can remember, to sort of your childhood. And so, if you could kind of talk through growing up in France and what it was like for you, and sort of what led you to sort of heading off into Ireland and yeah, a big change.
Yeah. So I'm actually from a very small town in the north of France. It's called Isque. And yeah, I think there's like 1,000 people in this city. It's a village, basically,
Yeah.
very small. There's just one school, there's one supermarket, and I remember I was living in front of a cemetery, which yeah, I
Oh
didn't
no.
realize when I was a kid, but now that I say it, it's like it's a kind of low-key weird, but anyway. And yeah, family life, everything was well. And then when I was around, I think 10 years old, something like that, we moved to a bigger city with my family for the job of my parents. So they need to move. And we moved there, and yeah, things kind of changed from
Yeah.
that point on. So my parents divorced from that point, and then from that moment, things kind of started to be a bit more complicated. You enter into
Mm.
a teenage years, you get into the secondary school. Is it secondary school?
Yeah, secondary school, yeah.
Yeah, the secondary school. And yeah, so when I was in my first year actually in secondary school, I was bullied because I was a feminine kind of boy. And yeah, so the other boys of the class were kind of like bullying me. And the second year, well, okay, I had enough, so I fought back and I kind of created myself a new character, a very, a bros bro. Is that the expression that we say, a bros bro?
I don't know. I've not heard that saying before. Maybe it is, or maybe I've not heard
Bros,
it.
bro, it's like very masculine type of guy, a toxic masculine
Oh
type of
yeah, yeah.
personality. So I kind of developed that. And so, yeah, I was getting into fights to impress. I was being, humiliating the other feminine boys if there was. So very something not cool, but something that I was pushed to kind of do for like almost survival. It felt like it.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. And then I hung out after with all the popular boys, became one of them. And yeah, it was everything kind of became easier from that point.
Yeah.
But I kind of shut down a part of myself from that point. And yeah, what else can I say? So things at home wasn't very easy. After the divorce of my parents, my relationship with my mom kind of was difficult. I was living with my mom. My dad was
Mm.
kind of away from that point. I didn't have much contact with him after that. And then yeah, so my mom wasn't a very happy woman, very
Mm.
dealing with a lot of depression and so on. So kind of
Yeah.
had to deal as an adult at an early age, taking care of my two sisters, my
Yeah.
older sister and my younger sister. So yeah, and after some time, it's when I arrived here around 17, 18, I knew I didn't want to stay in this town. It was still a bigger town
Yeah.
than where I grew up, but it was still
Mm.
a small town. So I knew I wanted more of this, and I felt kind of trapped in that city. Um,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to speak Spanish. I knew I wanted to be in to speak English. Sorry. From that point, I knew I wanted to be in a country where we could speak English. It was my favorite topic in school, English. It's where I was first in class, and it was where okay, I really like it. I was reading Harry Potter books in English.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted
Yeah.
to do, but I just wanted to speak English. And then when I turned 19, so one of my friends said, "Hey, they're hiring French speaker at Apple in Ireland. Do you want to go?" Like, hell yeah, let's go. And yeah,
Yeah.
since then I didn't go back to France, and I don't think I will for now.
Yeah, I think, sometimes when you sort of grow up wondering what's out there, especially in a small town, it's feels like, because I've sort of felt the same growing up, like a
Yeah.
big change is needed because you sort of feel a little bit trapped and sort of stuck sometimes, don't you? It's like, I want to see what's out there, really spread my wings and not be held back, and I have to make a big change to do it.
That's the thing, and it's also this feeling of not feeling like home in some ways. It's I never felt this feeling of home or even feeling comfortable with who I was truly. When we were talking because I had a group of friends and we are like seven boys. We grew up from since I was 16 until no 15 until my 19. We are seeing each other, so it's
Yeah,
late teenager years. So it's kind of
yeah,
date girls, when you talk about you discover your sexual life and stuff like that. And
yeah,
I don't know, I always had this difference. And for example, when they were talking about girls and stuff like that, and I um assumed that I was so like them that I
yeah,
was actually convincing myself that I was like that. So I was dating girls, I was doing everything just like them. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel quite myself. Now that
yeah.
I'm looking back, I realize it. But back then, I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was kind of off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think as well what happens in school is as we're finding ourselves and figuring things out. I imagine especially with going through bullying, you go through sort of putting up defense mechanism, but then it becomes something that you normalize so much that it's sort of difficult to find who you really are. So you go through a lot of very confusing years because you're trying to being a teenager is difficult anyway,
Yeah,
going through
everybody's
secondary
a
school,
mess.
but
Everybody's a mess at this age, so yeah.
yeah, it's true. But I think just socially, like managing to navigate how it goes with hundreds of other kids, however many there are, and especially when you've been bullied and then you've got, you're finding who you are, but you don't know how to express it. And also when you've come from a small town, it's like it's a lot. And then that's why I think as we sort of get older, we start to unpack all the pieces of the puzzle and figure out, all the real aspects of us, but they are sort of unpacking it at first is very daunting and brings a lot of anxiety.
It really does. Yeah, no, I remember I had quite a lot of anxiety with this part of myself, trying to discover, okay, what do I like, who I am. Being comfortable with it was the hardest part, I think.
Yeah,
And especially, like you said, when you come from a small town, you don't have, well, you're very limited in terms of figures where you can identify yourself with.
yeah,
For example, if you're in a bigger city, you can meet more people, more diverse people. But when you're from a small town, generally it's not that diverse and mentality aren't as open either. So yeah, it can be quite difficult sometimes.
yeah, it's true. And I always think, people in the city, they grow up a lot faster because they've got the experiences, a more open friend groups. But when you're in a smaller town, it's like you
Mm.
see glimpses on the TV or Netflix shows, but really you don't get the same experience as someone in the city would do, at like 17, 18, sort of going off to college and their first bars and stuff. Everything's a lot more closed. And so I think, because what age did you head to Ireland? You went quite young, right?
Yeah, I was 19 years old. Yeah. Yeah, I was 19 years old. So I finished high school. I did 1 year of study. It was a post living cert program that I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed. Thanks to this program, I moved for an internship in London. So I was so happy, I was like, oh my God, they all
Yeah.
speak
Yeah.
English, yes. And then from that point, I knew that, yeah, I really needed to leave. It was for sure, when I was in London, I felt so good, such a big city, doing
Yeah.
the internship with all those people, everybody, I was able to speak English. I was like, okay, I need to move away from my small town. And from that
Yeah.
point, yeah, then a few months later, I received an interview invitation for Apple, and I did the process. And then 6 months later, I was flying there, and I was like, yeah, okay, cool, let's do
Oh,
it.
nice. Yeah, it's when you have that first moment though, when you sort of move to a new city and you're like, yeah, I feel like this is the right place. It's like, even though it's nerve-wracking, you probably can remember the first day that you sort of land in a new city and you're like, okay, I'm definitely moving here. It's
Yeah.
so nerve-wracking, but you always remember the day years later as being a monumental point in your life that everything sort of changed, even though it can be difficult still, like figuring out and unpacking a lot of parts. It's like such a great moment to look back on. And I imagine you sort of felt that with London and Ireland, like, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the excitement kind of quickly overcome the anxiety that comes with it. I remember
Yeah.
before flying to Ireland, it was my first flight because to go to London, we have the underground tunnel that goes from Calais
Oh
to
yeah.
England. So that's what I was using back then. But then because I didn't travel much when I was younger out of France, I never was out of France. London was
Yeah.
my first time. And then, so it was my first flight to go to Ireland. I was like, wow, okay. And just the stress, I don't know, like the
Yeah.
first time you take a plane and a
Yeah.
plane, you go somewhere where you don't know. So I was feeling anxious. I remember I was crying at the airport. But then, yeah, as soon as I arrived, I was like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
so this is really happening. Okay, let's go, let's do it. And then you speak with people, and then you just get into the thing, and the anxiety fades away quite fast. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think once you get there, you're like, right, I'm never looking back. This is, my time and this is where I'm meant to be. And it's more the thought, isn't it? Like, I think if you think too much sometimes before like going somewhere, you can think of all the worst case scenarios. But once you get there, it's like, yeah, I can actually do this.
That's the thing. Yes, every time there's a new project, or every time I plan something in general, personally or even professionally, whatever it is, I always go through this phase. And I think we all do that. It's kind of like to protect ourselves of like, okay,
Yeah.
what can go wrong? This can go wrong, this can go wrong, this can go wrong. And at the end, this is what kind of adds up. I remember before going to Ireland, my family and my friends were actually adding to that stress as well because they're like,
Yeah.
they never did that move. So all their kind of insecurities or stress, or just even because they wanted to protect me, but they were
Yeah.
reflecting their own anxiety on me. And you can sometimes I wasn't even thinking about some stuff. They were like, oh, and when you need to go to I don't know, to the hospital because you broke your wrist, will you be able to explain that? So then I was on Google.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to explain in English that you broke your, it's like, but what am I doing? It's like, I will do it in real life. I will, and everything went well. I never broke my
Yeah.
wrist, but I had to go to
Yeah.
doctor appointment. I was able to explain myself, or there's your phone, there's some app you can do.
Yeah.
And it's like unnecessary stress that when I look back at those reasons why I was stressed, 95% of them were never valid to begin with, and they were just made
Yeah.
up or just over the top. So yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think as well, a lot of the sort of events that seem stressful at the time sort of shape us because we need that experience and in the end to sort of get used to living there. So if something bigger comes up, a few years later, God forbid, then we're more prepared for it because you never know what life can throw at you, when you arrive in a new country, a new city, you don't really know many people. I'm not sure if did you know many people when you moved to Ireland or did you go in sort of completely blind?
I knew one person, so the person who referred me, who was a
Yeah.
good friend of mine. So that was very reassuring, first of all, to have him. So he was able to guide me in the first steps, okay, what to do, what's not, and
Yeah.
so. But for example, when I moved to Spain, I didn't know anybody in Spain. I didn't know no one.
Same.
But because I did the move previously from France to Ireland, I was so chill on the plane, on the real. I was like, "Pff, it's
Yeah.
fine." Like I did it once, like and it went well. And because there was no anxiety, I found that I enjoyed the move even more because I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so there's no stress. Even, going before, for example, I did a living party in France. That's when
Yeah.
people came with their stress. They're like, oh, how are you feeling? Aren't you stressed? Oh my God, I could never do that. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you saying? But
Yeah.
when I left from Ireland to Spain, I had the same, a living party with my friends. My group of friends was so much different because there was a group of expats, a group of
Yeah.
international people, and they know how it is, and no stress was added. They're like, "Oh my God, so happy for
Yeah.
you! It's so exciting!" Blah blah. The difference of mentality between a small town and a bigger town. It's also this exposure that you get to different people, and it kind of reduces as well the stress that you get. But also because I knew I did that before, so like, okay,
Yeah.
whole entire different experience. So yeah.
Yeah, I think once you've done it once, it just sort of becomes part of life. Every time you do it again, it's like, yeah, I can do this. I've done it once. I've done the hard part already. And it's like,
Exactly. It's like, I don't know if you remember the first time one of your close friends from the country you visited left.
yeah,
For example, when I was in Ireland and my first close friend who moved away from Ireland, I was so sad. I was like, oh my
yeah,
God, that's crazy. But then after you get used to it because it's the expat life and people come and go and so on, you get used to that. And it's the same thing, it's like if you do it once,
yeah,
then you do it twice, then you kind of get used to it. If tomorrow I'm meant to move to another country, I would happily do it because I know the process. I know things happen, but it's part of life. And it's like I wouldn't worry as much as I did in the past, I think. So yeah.
yeah. It's so true. I think once you get there, it's like you just find a way, don't we? We always just find a way to figure it out, even when, there's a stack of things from finding an apartment to the residency, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I'll just
Yeah,
somehow
yeah,
you
like
just figure it out, and it's like. Looking back, it's like, oh God, there was so much. I remember when I first went to Madrid, I didn't really give my family or anyone much warning because I'd gone
what?
originally for
Okay.
my birthday in 2016. And then I was like, at the time, I was looking anyway for a change. Like, I was desperate to get out of my town. I was like, I need to make a change from the UK. And they just announced Brexit in the June of that year. So I was
All
like,
right, okay.
I went to Madrid, and that was it. The first time I fell in love with the city, and I remember it was the summer, and I just looked for a job and got one very fast, and literally packed my suitcase. And 2 weeks later, I was there. And I think
Wow.
if I'd been thinking through logically and sort of gone to everyone, someone would have put me off, but I remember somehow I was suddenly there. It was like September, and I was like,
Okay.
oh my
So
God, I'm actually in Madrid. And then I
that's the
think
thing
once I
happening.
got into an apartment and everything, I was like, oh, it's real. I'm actually living in Spain. I'm living on my own. I'm
It's
like, what is
happening. It's
this?
like
Yeah.
But you're right though. So you didn't have really the time to get into your head or letting other people get into your head either. So that's really good. Yeah, nice. I think that's
Yeah.
the way to go about it, honestly. If you want something, just go for it. And whatever happens next, you will deal with it.
Yeah, it's so true. I think somehow we just figure it out. It was probably when I was there like a month or so later that I was like, oh damn, how did I do all of that so
Can
fast?
imagine.
Because
It's
I
like
literally just packed my life up and just moved over. Didn't know any
too big.
Spanish,
It's
didn't
very
know anything about, the residency and everything. So, but
And
looking back, I'm like,
like we were saying earlier, in Madrid, especially, they don't speak a lot of English. So yeah, that's
yeah.
that's
Yeah, but
great.
I think when you move and you get that experience, as anxiety ridden as it can be, like you just meet so many great people, and it sets you up, in life,
Yeah,
like I was saying, for anything that comes along that's a bigger obstacle in the future. Because I think a lot of people have this fear of just making the big move, whether it's just out of a small town to a big city or moving country. And I think once you do it, you're like, especially not knowing many people, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
it's a big sort of change that I know in terms of my family, like I've just got one sister and then my parents. No one really ever sort of left, it's sort of
yeah.
my sister used to work abroad in the summer and go to like different parts of the Mediterranean, but to live
Okay.
like all through the year, it's like I was the first one to sort of jet off. And yeah, when I look back, I'm like, damn, that was 8 years ago.
Wow. And
It's long.
how is your family feeling about this move actually?
I remember 3 or 4 weeks after I moved there, my mom and sister flew out to see me. So that
Okay.
helped a lot because I just moved in my apartment. And so I
Okay.
kind of wanted to show them, look, I'm okay. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
going
I'm safe
crazy.
in
My
my
life is not falling apart.
house. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool.
But how was it with sort of your sisters and family when you moved? I bet they missed you a lot at first.
Yes, but there's something peculiar. So when my family we're not that close, I don't have quite strong relationship, for example, with my dad, with my mom, and
Yeah,
my sisters. My sisters, yes, kind of, but it's
yeah,
like, yeah, we're not very familiar. Family, I'm not very familiar family person. But yeah, we texted each other. For example, no, they wouldn't come where I
mm,
live or anything like that, so we're not that close. But yeah, we text each other from time to time. And when I moved, of course, they wanted to check, is everything all right? How is it
yeah.
there? How is your life there? So yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think as well with sometimes with families, I felt like when I was living in my town, I sort of had to play different versions of myself, like in the workplace, or it's a very straight 1970s sort of new
Oh
town.
yeah.
So it hasn't changed much. Even now, it's still pretty much as it was. So when I was in the UK, I was always sort of playing the straight role. And then suddenly in Madrid, I could be so open with everyone there. So I feel like my relationship actually, even though there's a distance, I got much closer to my mom and my sister because I could be fully
Really?
myself. And I think they noticed when I was in the UK, it's like I was having to hide parts of myself because from wherever I was working, they were not the most friendly environments, a lot of homophobia and it's like
Okay.
suddenly in Madrid, it's like, oh yeah, I can fully be myself and no one cares, you know?
Oh, yeah, Madrid. Yeah, I always joke about it with my friend to say Madrid is gay. Madrid is, I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like there's more like LGBTQ people than, straight people in Madrid. So yeah, it's sometimes I feel like it. Of course, I don't think that's true. If we check the data, I know.
yeah,
But the vibe is like, yeah, you can truly be yourself. It's so big. There's so many, even Treka, the entire district, with
yeah.
LGBTQ bars and stuff like that. It's quite nice, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's so true. I think living in such an open city, it's kind of daunting at first because when you've come from like a small town or where sort of everything's almost set in stone, like everyone,
Yeah,
follows the same life pattern almost, to go somewhere like a big city where everything's so open, it's like
it's a
it's the
bit overwhelming.
process of finding yourself, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, it's a bit overwhelming sometimes because you feel like sometimes I felt in Madrid that, okay, what was wrong with me? Because in my hometown or in Ireland, in Cork as well, Cork, that is, not such a big town, we had one gay club, which they closed actually and they opened a new one. But, the gay scene wasn't that big either. But of course, if you compare the population to the population of Madrid, it makes sense. But then in Madrid, things are so different. Mentality in Spain regarding sexuality, they're so far. For example, I know in TV early 2000s, there were already like trans people on TV, and that didn't
Yeah,
much problem, or even some series where there were gay couples in the early 2000s. If you put that in France, the number
yeah,
of bad reaction that would have had, I'm sure. So, I feel like they're super open with this, but also super open that it kind of became overwhelming because some people are really free to be who they are and they don't question sometimes their behavior or anything like that. And coming from a
yeah,
small town, you see that and wow, okay. So this is
yeah,
so we can actually do that. And it's kind of the journey of, okay, learning, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Like we were
yeah,
talking earlier about, yeah, finding who you are. And I think Madrid is good for that because it's big. You have multitude of options. You can explore things, what you like, what you don't like, and it can sometimes be stressful to have, you know,
Yeah.
different things available to you and be like, okay, what do I do? What is it that I like or not? But when you meet the right people, when you do the right things that, you know, it sound appealing to you to do these things, it's much easier. So yeah, I prefer it that way, to have the option and then you choose, rather than coming from a smaller town where your options are very limited and you cannot do what
Yeah.
you have no choice really to do. You do them out of, okay, I guess that's the way to go about it, you know, in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think, especially in smaller towns, you don't get these opportunities that people the same age should get in the city to really find your way and what you sort of enjoy and the people you want to be around. And so it can be quite, I remember the first few months in Madrid, I was very overwhelmed just at having like a neighborhood like Chueca, and
Yeah,
being able to go
I was
out.
shocked. I was, what you mean? There's an entire neighborhood for the
Yeah.
gays, like with the flags and everything, everywhere in the metro, everywhere. Like, what?
Yeah, it was like my first year there, they had like World Pride and it was like all these things like in the UK, I'd have to sneak on a train to go to London or
Yeah,
Manchester and just get a glimpse. And now I was like, oh yeah, I can go wherever people are so open. And I think being from a town where everyone on like the apps in my town hid their profile picture. I remember in a job I
yeah,
had as well, like someone was like gay who I worked with and he found like my profile and I was so terrified of him telling people in work. And so just getting used to in Madrid of not being like that. It took me a while. So I think the first few sort of months I had, I don't know, like that process of sort of adapting to such an open and free city, being from such a small town.
that's true actually. And I was doing the same when I was in Ireland on apps. I remember there was not my face on apps, but
Yeah,
when I moved to Madrid, I was like, actually, who cares? It's like, yeah, let's
yeah,
the phrase, and yeah, that's true. That's a change that I never noticed, but that's something I did too actually. And yeah, no, it's nice to feel that you can be who, and even beyond, you know, apps and meeting people. I like what Madrid has to offer in terms of lifestyle.
yeah,
For example, here I'm able to explore dance. You know, dancing has always been something I wanted to explore, and I never had the chance to do before. Here in
yeah.
Madrid, there's so many dance studio. It's so
Oh, yeah, it's true.
accessible to everyone as well. Or for example, I recently joined a LGBTQ swimming club because
Ah, nice.
I discovered swimming this year when I was prepping for Marathon of Madrid, and I was like, okay, right, so let me sign up. And now I'm part of this club, and it's amazing. There's competitions,
Yeah,
European competitions, national competitions, and so on. It's quite cool. And yeah, there's you can find, okay, and try new things. Like I was saying, you have multitude of options. You can try things and see what you like and don't like, and that's the nice part I also like of Madrid, that you can explore who you are even as an adult.
for sure.
You don't have to be a kid again to explore things, you know, so it's good.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think having like so many apps like Meetup as well nowadays, you can
Yeah.
see all these different groups and so many like areas that you can sort of find your way in the city, even if it's daunting at first. I imagine what sort of dance are you doing then? That sounds
I,
exciting.
yeah, I do a hip hop commercials. So it's a studio here in Madrid. They have different levels. And yeah, I go
Oh,
three
nice.
times per week, 3 times per week. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really fun. I like it. Hmm.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I think, when you sort of find your way in the city and like I said, through Meetup, there's so many different events and you get to meet so many different people. So even if you arrive and you don't know anyone, sort of once you get used to the city, you find, things you enjoy and it
Yeah,
makes it a lot easier because it can be difficult, sometimes being far away from family, far away from everything. But if you find, the right people and groups and things that you really enjoy. It makes
that's
living in a new place a lot easier and
yes, and
got to
it
enjoy
really,
all the aspects.
that's the thing, and it really helps as well with, you know, all the other anxiety that we can feel that life might throw at us. It's like, you know, for example, if I was just walking all day long doing work, 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 work,
Yeah.
and waiting for the weekend, I would be like, right, okay, that's a bit boring. I don't like that. What the hell is happening? But now,
Yeah.
for example, I do things during the week that I like because I'm in Madrid. If I wasn't in Madrid, it would
Yeah.
probably be more challenging to find those things that I like. Or in any other cities that would be possible.
Yeah.
Madrid allowed that quite easily. For example, I can go to the dance class. I go, everything's good. I go during the week, dance
Yeah.
classes. I go to the runs. I go to the swimming clubs as well. So yeah, it's everything during the week. I don't have to wait for the weekend. And those moments, I take them for myself, and I'm able,
Yeah.
to escape and release the anxiety. Don't think about anything stress related, and also physical activity is always good, to release stress anyway. So yeah, that's what I like as well.
Yeah, I think that's great because I think it's all about filling your life up, isn't it, with different things throughout the week. So you're not just waiting for the weekend. Because I think I used to be like that person that was like, oh, I can't wait for
Also,
Saturday because that's when I could sneak off on the train to Manchester and get like a glimpse in. But that was kind of, early 20s, like part
yeah, of
of
course,
it.
like we
Once,
all do, like party and stuff. You wait for the weekend to get wasted and meet new people. That's yeah, but yeah,
yeah,
we grow up, I guess.
yeah, it's
We
so true.
change and we look for different things. So that's why it's part of growing up, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, and time goes so fast as well, doesn't it? Because
Uh,
how long ago was it that you moved to Ireland?
It was 8 years ago, actually. And it's crazy when I say it because it's
Yeah.
almost 10 years ago. And it's like, wow, I still see myself, at the airport crying like a baby and being like, okay, okay, I'm almost going there. But yeah, it's insane. It was my birthday last month and I saw 27 years old. And I was like,
Yeah.
sounds like a serious age, the seven.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but then it's like I don't care anyway. It's like it's just numbers. I don't care. I can still do things I like and stuff. But yeah, it's like it goes so fast. Mind you, we're almost in 2025.
I know. I'm like in my head it was 2019, like last year. The last 4 years don't count.
It's like what? It's like COVID was almost 6 years ago.
I
6 years
know.
ago.
It's
Like what the hell?
I'm like, where has the time gone? But it's true. It's like it's almost been because I moved 8 years ago to Spain, and it's like I can't believe it's almost been a decade. It feels, although it feels long ago that it was COVID in a way, it doesn't feel long ago that I went to Spain. Like I can still vividly remember the first day arriving into Madrid, like everything from the first few months, like it was yesterday, and I'm like, where's the time gone?
That's true. It's weird though because when I really think about it, it feels like you time flew, but also it feels like I went through so many different things at the same time that it's like, wow, okay. When I look back where I was, when I first arrived in Ireland,
Yeah.
totally different person. Not the same person at all compared to today, but also it feels like it went by so quickly. And again, so many things has happened, and
Yeah.
yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like so many different events happen that like shape and mold us when we move away. And the 20s anyway are like for finding ourselves, but I'm like,
That's
it still feels like yesterday. I'm like, God, the time goes too fast. I'm not ready for it to be 2025
I
already.
know, right? Yeah, but like you said, that's actually what kind of helps me to like not worry too much about, being 27, then 28. I feel like, okay, my 20s anyway, they're just like not for fun, but like they to figure things out. And then
Yeah.
after 30, I will start to maybe start not worrying, but like start being like, okay, right, maybe I need to figure things out, or even maybe not. I don't know. But it's like my 20s, I'm rushing myself like that.
Yeah.
When I'll be 30, I'll find another excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. I think though living in especially living in Spain, it's such a great lifestyle. And so it's very different even from the UK and probably from Ireland in the sense that I don't know, I feel younger in a way when I'm there than in my town. Like everyone settles down quite young, they get married quite young,
I
kids
tell
quite
me about
young.
it. All my
And
childhood friends, yeah, they all settled down and so on. It's like, what?
yeah, it's like most of my friends from here like have a few kids, are married now, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
still moving city to city in the
Yeah.
Spanish lifestyle.
It's like I saw this reel last time on Instagram. It was like, okay, once you reach late 20s, you have different kind of people. Those who get a dog, those who get married and get kids, and those
Yeah.
who run marathon or do things. It's like oh,
Yeah.
somewhere else. It's like so true. It's like the
Yeah.
best in between. But yeah.
But I think it is true as well as you sort of get older and live somewhere, like the anxiety around getting older sort of changes because I used to be very much, I think it's how I sort of grew up, like there's sort of a toxic lifestyle when it comes to, at least there used to be in the UK towards like the opinion of gay life used to be, I remember if I was like talking to someone on the apps or whatever, it used to be that 30 was the age of death, and I used to fear it so
Yeah,
much. Like
that's
you had
true.
to have a partner by 30, you had to have the house, everything had to be, sort of in place by 30. And then I remember when I turned 30, I was like, well, none of this is actually in place for me. But I don't have that fear and the anxiety that I used to have, say, when I was 21 and sort of thinking for the future. So nowadays, I don't have, I mean, I would like to be 21 again, but I don't have the same sort of fear that I did around.
Would you though? Would you really like to be 21 again?
I think with if I could be 21, but with the knowledge I have now.
Ah, yeah, fair, fair, fair.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and yeah, it's weird how time flies, and at the end you're like, wow, okay, things are really, really happening, but also your our mentality change, and thank God, because yeah, like you said, when I was younger, I was wow, when I will be 27, I will be in this big apartment, I will be traveling the world, I will be probably
Yeah.
on business and be like and and it's like no, it's like that's not how things happen. And the older I get, the less pressure I put on myself as well to get to those milestone or whatever. Because for example, having kids and stuff like that, they are not things that well, you kind of grow up with because people
Yeah.
around you, they tell you, okay, that's the normality. And then when you're from a small town, like we said, mentality are slightly different. And for example, my childhood friends, it's the same. Most of them are married and have kids. And if I was still around over there, I would feel the pressure so much more. I would be like, right, okay, it's not, what am I doing? What's wrong with me? I would be like,
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong. But now that I'm in a city like Madrid, and it's like I see many people from different age living different lifestyle, they actually
Yeah.
like to see, and I'm like, wow, okay, I would love to see myself at this age doing different things like that. Or oh,
Yeah.
it's possible to be this age and not having kids, or it's possible to be this age and being single because I see
Yeah, for
like, it's
sure.
close to them. So then I don't feel like there's something wrong with me by being 27, not having, bought a house yet or like this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of reassuring in some ways.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, I guess we change our mind on that. Mm.
Yeah, I think COVID as well played a big factor because going through sort of those lockdowns and then coming out of it and being free again, so to speak, like it makes you appreciate everything more. And it's suddenly like, well, yeah, all these things that I had in my head that I need to do before I can just do. Now I've got the freedom in my own time instead of feeling like I have to rush or put the pressure on myself. And it sort of gives you like a new appreciation. As awful as it was, that time I would never want to go through again.
Yes, no, that's so true. And it was like for 2 years we couldn't do exactly what we wanted. So then once we are given back what we actually want to do, like traveling,
Yeah,
socializing, seeing the people you love and you like to spend time with, you like you said, you see things differently. And back
yeah,
then I used to feel like, okay, I want to make a lot of money from that age. I want to be in that position. I want to have this business doing like six
yeah,
figures and so on and so on. But then I wasn't really asking myself, why do I actually want to reach those milestones? Do I want to reach them for the sake of them or for what's offering behind? And after
yeah,
COVID, you're right, I kind of changed it. And I was like, it's not really so much, for example, having a six figures business or growing, I don't know, having a big apartment or stuff like that. It's more about the freedom that it
yeah,
provides me, being able to do the life choices that I want, living the kind of lifestyle that I want, and things like that. So your approach is more like down to earth as to okay what you
Yeah,
actually
definitely.
want to do, and it's not about those social construct type of things. It's more about okay what you truly want to have, and you just get some clarity out of this kind of experience. So yeah, right. Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's so true, and it sort of gives, now appreciating the time a lot more, like the
Yeah,
things that you enjoy, like it's like you can really be in the moment and properly take the time to be present, and it's not like, okay, I have to do this. It's like, yeah, you can do it at your own pace, and it's like I always think, no matter where I am in a year or two's time, I will appreciate it a lot more than I used to pre-COVID. Because I remember pre-COVID, I was always in the mindset of, oh, I'll stay in Madrid for 2 or 3 years and then I'll go off somewhere else in
I
Spain.
know.
And then once I did that, like it was, yeah, just after COVID had finished pretty much and going to Barcelona. I was like, well, I've done this now, but I actually miss the life that I was trying to leave
Yeah.
and change when I was in Madrid. And I'm like, well, COVID's over now. Why was I trying to, change it so much? Like I had a pretty good life there, but I think sometimes we have all these expectations we put on ourselves, and it's like as we get older, it's like, well, I'm just gonna do what I actually enjoy, from now on.
What feels right. And yes, we always think like the grass is greener elsewhere, and we feel like the pressure of okay, I have to explore, I have to see something else, I have to go there,
Yeah,
I have to see it. But sometimes, yeah, we just stop living in the moment as well. We
yeah,
forget
it's so
about.
true.
So, for example, last time I actually wrote an article about that. I was late to a physiotherapist appointment here in Madrid, and I
Yeah,
was so mad because I don't know, I missed the first bus, and then I forgot my key. Or like, okay, that's not
yeah.
happening. And I was just, and then I arrived in Puerta de Toledo. It's
Oh yeah,
a monument here in Madrid, and I was wow, okay. And I came to this realization of dude, you're actually in Madrid. It's like you're living in
yeah,
Madrid. Look how pretty it is. And then I was like, wow, stress free. From that moment, I was like, wow, okay, I'm late for my appointment. I don't care. So I'm going to be 10, 15 minutes. Anyway, in Spain, it's okay to be 10, 15 minutes.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah,
yeah. And it's like, wow, I was like, okay, so stress free from that point. And I was like, okay, I need to appreciate more of things that I'm currently now because I was looking back, okay, 2, 3 years ago when I was thinking, oh my God, imagine when you will be living in Spain, how happy you will be. You will be so
yeah,
much happier and things like that. But then once I arrived in Spain, I was already thinking, okay, what would be next then in this case? So maybe moving to Italy, maybe moving to Dubai. What else do I want? It's like, no, like stop. Like, yes, you can think about it from time to time, but it doesn't need to become an obsession. And
yeah,
also remember to live in the moment because yeah, we don't get twice the same moment. So it's kind of like yeah,
yeah,
a bit difficult sometimes. And the way I do it is try to like, okay, relax, breathe. Where are we right now?
yeah.
It's like I'm reading actually this book at the moment. It's called Thrive. Yeah, Thrive by Ariana Huffington. And
Okay.
she talks about it quite a lot about, being in the moment, how as well social medias kind of impacted our ways of staying in the moment,
Yeah,
how, being focused on, okay, I need to climb the corporate ladder fast, fast, fast. We always
yeah,
forget to be in the right moment. And she explains that a quick ways to remember to stay in the moment is a quick word or a quick activity to do. For example, if you brush your teeth and I don't know, there's a keyword or like for me it's AO, like it's AO, it's kind of like a thing we say in French,
yeah,
AO, I'm here, like, and so I
yeah,
say, AO, okay, we're back in the moment when, for example, I'm in my thought and I complete forget to be in the moment. For example, if I'm going on a hike or even if I'm
yeah,
sitting brushing my teeth, and I just forget to be in the moment, I'm like, dude, enjoy. We're here. We're in Spain.
yeah,
It's
for sure.
good. I remember the good things, and I'm grateful for those things happening as well. Having my business, being in a stable job, living in Spain, being healthy, being able to do the
Yeah,
things. It's just, very. You just feel like, okay,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. It's
So,
like sometimes you just have to like snap yourself into it, don't you? And just be
yeah,
like,
that's why I say hey, like it's like
yeah,
literally it doesn't mean it's not even I don't even know if that's on the French dictionary, but like saying hey is like a French thing to say hey, like we're here, like
yeah,
it's like if you see someone from far, you like they don't pay attention to you, it's like hey.
Yeah.
That's why I say sometimes to myself in my head, I'm like, oh, and oh, yeah, okay, right. Let's relax. When I get in my head and I get things too fast, I'm like, oh, relax, come back. Now
Yeah.
I'm here and stuff like that. And
I
it's
think that's, a great way, isn't it? Because it's like you snap yourself being present in the moment again. And I think what's happened as well, like we live now in sort of the generation where everyone is able kind of to break away from sort of the stereotypes that we used to have it, like for many of our family members, like growing up, like the pressure of doing something by a certain age, because things were
yeah.
not more guaranteed, but more expected. And nowadays it's like if you want to, I don't know, if someone wanted to pack the bags at 38, start over in a new city, you kind of can. Whilst maybe in the 90s it was like it was more guaranteed that you'd get the house from the job. And nowadays, who can get a house, you know? So
Yeah,
like
honestly,
just kind of live and enjoy it for what it is and not have the time frame. But I think kind of it's trickled down through my family, I've noticed, from all the way from my grandma to my mom, my sister, and me. We've always struggled. I'm kind of learning to do it more, but being
yeah.
present in the moment, we always have anxiety around feeling like we're not doing anything. So we would constantly have to be doing something. But that's something that I'm trying to work through, like practicing being present and appreciating the moment instead of always not rushing, but always feeling like I have to be, doing something. Like I think a lot of it for me has come from because I used to, as a teenager, like I was on YouTube producing music and doing all
Yeah,
these songs, and then because that never worked out. And I felt like, oh crap, I'm in my early 20s, like everyone else has already figured this stuff out. Was like, I need to sort this out now. And that's one of the reasons I ended up in Madrid in the first place. I was like, let me just figure my life out. And then once I got there, I was like, I don't have to put such a time scale of rushing things. I can be, especially since COVID, I've learned this more. Like I can just be more present and things will work out how they're supposed to instead of trying to force it. Because I think when you try and force something, especially when you've got that mentality of, being anxious at being still, then it doesn't set it up for very good success a lot of the time.
No, that's true. And also, it feels like, society put a name on success in a way that, that's what success looks like.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, having kids, having a house, having a stable job and stuff like that. That for us to become as a younger generation and living with all those, okay, that's what I need to do. Okay, stay focused, stay focused. But it's so
Yeah.
hard as well for us to reach that point as, for example, my grandparents where they were able to get a house for like 1/3 of the price that it would be, for example, today, or
Yeah.
even like getting a job, staying in the same job for like years and years and years. It
Mhm.
was a norm, it was even in the mentality that, okay, your job doesn't have to be fun anyway, it's work and then you have fun
Yeah.
afterwards. But we just feel different about things. Society evolved, mentality evolved, goals evolved, and so we don't. Everybody has a different vision on what success is, and
Yeah, for
what I like
sure.
is that we can nowadays technically stop from being okay. No, that's not the scheme I want. I want something else. This is what success means to me. And maybe, like you
Yeah.
said, okay, in your teenagers' years, music didn't work out, but maybe you don't know in a few years you want to go back
Yeah.
to it and you will, work out at some point. It's all about what success means to each and every one of us. And that's why I like as well that in big town, again, just coming back on this thing, is like
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that it can brings to you because when you're in a smaller town where mentality are more closed, you feel this pressure. If
Yeah.
whenever I went back to France, it was 3 or 4 years ago. Actually, I didn't go back before that, and I don't feel bad about not going back because now
Yeah.
when I go back, it provides me with anxiety of not doing enough in terms of their own on their own goals, their targets, what success means
Yeah.
to them, and they reflect that on me when I go there. It's like, oh, but did you buy a house? Or and what about
Yeah.
family? And what about getting married and stuff like that? And then I already feel bad where I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't
For
need to
sure.
feel bad. I'm living a life that I like. I'm doing things that I enjoy, and I feel like I'm living the towards the success that I'm aiming for. and yeah, and then you go back to this close mindset, and that's why I just don't go back to that as well. So I also choose what are the people I surround myself with, or the
Yeah.
environment in which I'm staying, to kind of like not feel this pressure so much, because it still exists. At the end of the day, it depends on where you are and who you talk to, but you will still
Yeah.
see this pressure of, okay, that's the social normative, and yeah, so
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it is like overcoming sort of the pressure of society, and instead you just learn to put expectations on yourself instead of what is maybe expected by, what you've grown up with or family members. And
yeah.
I think, when we've done, I always say we've done the hardest part, which is, packing up and moving anyway. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
such a
true.
big thing, like for a lot of people. So I always think there's no time scale on anything. You sort of set your own expectations, and what's meant to work out does, and what isn't doesn't. And everything's like a learning lesson along the way. And all of the like lessons that we learn is something one day can sort of sit back and laugh about.
Yeah, but that's true. And like you said, like it's interesting what you say about, okay, we did the hard stuff about moving. And that's true because you see this in people who had similar experience, kind of like leaving part of themselves behind and trying to discover new things. It takes courage to do this at the end of the day, to like being
Yeah.
like, okay, that's it. I'm going to live a life that I know nothing about, and I assume I'm going to do it. Everything will turn out okay, hopefully.
Yeah.
And we figure things out. And I think confidence in being okay, that's not what I want out of life, and I'm
Yeah.
going to live the way I want life to be for me, comes
Yeah.
also from doing those tiny little steps of like going outside of a comfort zone, being like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know I will be okay because I did this in the past already and this turns out okay. So I found that, yeah, getting to this level of confidence of being like, okay, I don't want this life, I want this life. I don't know how I'm
Yeah.
going to get there, but I know it will happen somehow. So yeah, I think that's also reassuring. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for other people as well, they pick up on it, once you find something and a place that you're happy in and doing what you love to do, it sort of radiates off you anyway. And then people are like, okay, because it's usually their expectations that they're putting on to you, which, like I said, a lot of it's come down through society and generations. And so sometimes they have to see it for themselves. And I think yeah, with my mom and sister when they visited Spain and they were like, oh yeah, it's actually good.
Yeah, oh, it's great
And it's
actually.
like, well, I think,
That's
it's sometimes the unknown for a lot of people, especially because things have changed so much in even the last 10 years. But from when I was like a little kid to now, it's changed a lot. And for generations, like, for my mom, for my grandma, whatever, to see the change, it's such a monumental thing in terms of, I don't know how to word it, but how it's sort of
I know
changed
what you
over
mean.
the last few decades has been so much. And only sometimes like seeing the person and how they're doing, can you get like a full perspective of how it's going for them.
Yes, and I totally agree. It's like there's always different kind of people. The kind who sees the world as in the world is going to shit, everything is going to go
Yeah,
bad. That's the end of the world. It was much better before. And then
yeah,
there's people who like, okay, things are going in the right direction. Yes, it's not perfect, but there is
yeah,
improvement and things are going right and so on. And that's the kind of people you need to surround yourself with to go
yeah,
away from all the stereotypes or go away from all this negativity about, okay, this is going wrong, everything is going to go bad, and that's just adds anxiety on top of that. So yeah, no, I agree with you. There's a lot of things happen even in the past 10 years, in the past 5 years with COVID as well, in between as well, that
yeah,
pushed quite a lot of mentality towards different things. And I think it's to the positive. We're growing as, a society, we're learning, and yeah, I think it's good, change and vision and seeing people as well changing their own mentality. For example, when I speak with my dad as well, I see how different he is on different topics than he would
yeah.
be for so close-minded and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I think it's for the greater good, I think. So yeah, change is good. Hmm.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think like we were saying before, once you learn to be present in the moment and sort of just put the expectations for yourself rather than what was expected, that's when you start to find a lot more calm in your day and everything starts to fall in place around that. And it's like, it just
Yeah,
makes everything flow a lot smoother because when you're
it's
forcing it, it's never going to work in the long run. It might for the short term, but you'll just burn out. And it's like,
yeah, and it's so much
um,
easier as well. And also, stress is not good for the skin. That's why I remember
yeah,
remind myself sometimes, so like you don't want wrinkles. Stress is not good for your
yeah.
skin anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. But yeah, thank you so much for kind of sharing your story and learning more about you. And so for people that watch this, where can people sort of find you in terms of your LinkedIn and any websites to reach out?
Yeah, so I'm available on LinkedIn. So Damien Monel, my first and last name. Happy to chat with anyone about any topic. I'm responsive on LinkedIn. I check my message every day. So yeah, that's easy from there.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
me
having
today on the
me.
podcast. It was awesome to hear more about your story. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you when I'm in Madrid.
Yes, definitely. We'll go for a coffee, yeah, for sure in Madrid. And yeah, so some thanks for having me, Connor. It was so great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And so, yeah, to everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Queerness Diaries. And we'll be back next week with another episode. So, thank you very much.